How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to my channel. So I kind of want to try something a bit different than my usual gameplay content. So about 2 weeks ago, at the time I make this video, I just attended Megacon Orlando in Orlando, Florida, of course. And so I just kind of want to do a little video talking about my experience of the convention, some things I did, some things I liked, some things I didn't like, and just share my overall thoughts on the con. So without further ado, let's begin. So I'm assuming a lot of you watching this video probably know what Megacon Orlando is, but for those of you who do not, Megacon Orlando is basically a pop culture and entertainment convention celebrating a wide variety of fandoms, whether it's DC Comics, Marvel Comics, comic books in general, video games, film, anime, whatever you can think of. So, just like any typical convention, they have, things like booths where you can buy a lot of like merchandise, a lot of fan-made merchandise and whatnot. You can also get a bunch of cool stuff that anyone in these kind of fandoms would, like to have and whatnot. So this is actually my second time attending Megacon Orlando. My first time was last year in 2022. So going into this year, I kind of had an idea of what to expect as far as like the kind of stuff they're gonna offer, as well as like the layout of the convention center, because it took place in Orange County Convention Center, which is a pretty big building. It can house like thousands of people, but we'll kind of go more into that later in a bit. So what were some things I did at the con itself? So for starters, unlike last year, I decided to cosplay for this past Megacon. So on Thursday, I was Rorschach from Watchmen. On Friday, I was Joel from The Last of Us. And on Saturday, I was Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil 4. This is the second time I went to a con cosplaying as Rorschach and Joel. My first time for both of those was at last year's Holiday Matsuri in 2022. But this past Megacon was my first time going to a con cosplaying as Leon Kennedy. So in the weeks leading up to Megacon Orlando, I had been working on my cosplay for Leon. So, that was all cool stuff. And so some of the things I wanted to do at this convention was show off my cosplay and whatnot. And one of the things they did at Megacon that I was happy they did was the cosplay red carpet. I'll show some footage to kind of give you an idea what it's like. So right now I'm in line for the cosplay red carpet. I have to think of the name for a sec. But yeah, as you can see, there's a bit of a large crowd going on right now. So that should be pretty interesting right here. So what they have us do whenever you get in line is they give you like a little sheet right here and like a pencil. You just write down your character and where it's from and whatnot. And then once they call you up, you get to walk in that red carpet right there. And then I think there's like a few photographers in front that are going to be taking your photo and whatnot. So I do think that's one event at Megacon Orlando that I think kind of makes it stand out from other conventions, because I know a lot of conventions do cosplay contests where you can compete for money and stuff, but I kind of think more cons should do something like that where it's not a competition, it's just, for fun. You don't have to sign up for any kind of like thing and whatnot. You don't have to register. You just wait in line, and then you, as kind of the video mentioned earlier, you just write down your character and where it's from and the little card. And when it's your turn, they call that name in that franchise. You send the red carpet, you stand in one spot where a bunch of photographers will take your photo, and then, just go from there. So I think that was a pretty fun event and whatnot. So some other stuff I did at the con was a bunch of panels, actually. I don't have too much footage of the panel just because I wasn't too sure how they're going to feel about me filming some of these panels. I know one in particular, which I'll talk about later in a bit. They didn't allow us to film there, but some of the ones they didn't really verbally make it clear if they did allow it or not. So for the sake of not getting in trouble, I didn't film. Well, actually, I did get some footage. I'll show some brief clips of some of the panels I attended, but some of them included like panels about doing cosplay photo shoots from home, getting into cosplay photography, getting into voice acting actually. One was actually about getting started in live streaming video games on like Twitch or YouTube and whatnot. I'll show a little footage of that panel in particular actually.
What's your recommended platform for streaming between like YouTube Lives, Twitch, Discord?
So Twitch is our main platform that we all use, but honestly you don't necessarily have to go that way. There's actually quite a few new platforms that are coming out right now, Kick being one of them, and a lot of people stream on YouTube Live. You could go in a lot of different directions based on your preference.
And then another panel I want to talk about actually involved a few YouTubers who were there actually. I honestly kind of forgot the names of some of them, but one in particular that stood out for me was actually the Flick Pig. He was there along with a few other YouTubers that do content similar to what he does. I'll show a little footage of that panel as well.
I would say don't become a talking head just to talk. I would bring a personality. Sometimes you don't have to be the best on YouTube, but if you just have a personality someone can connect with, that's all it takes, and you can have a career on YouTube just by that.
So when I heard the Flip Pig was going to be at Megacon, I was like, oh cool, I should, definitely get a chance to, talk to him and get a photo with him, and I did just that. I'll show my selfie that I got with him as well. He was actually a guy on YouTube who got me into going to the theater and watching films and kind of reviewing films. I haven't done that in a long time, admittedly, but it was cool getting to talk to him and whatnot. And then the last one I want to talk about was actually involving Sam Raimi. He was one of the bigger guests that they had for Megacon Orlando 2 weeks ago. And so that was one panel where they did straight up tell us you can't be filming it because they did live stream it, but I'll show a little bit of like what the inside was like before. This is before they told us you couldn't film. So I just got a little bit of who was there, but there was a lot of people there. So yeah. The only thing I will say about that panel was that it did start like 20 minutes after the scheduled time was going to start. And a lot of that was because a lot of people did show up at this panel. And, they were kind of, I guess they were falling behind the schedule as far as like trying to get everyone to seat at this panel. And so a little minor complaint, but nothing too serious. Why not? I'm sure these things happen. So because I was cosplaying at Megacon Orlando 2 weeks ago, I decided I wanted to try to get some photos and whatnot. I didn't get as many as I thought I would, to be perfectly honest, just because a huge complaint I did have with Megacon is how crowded it was. Thursday was a relatively chill day, nothing too crazy, which is kind of expected because not too many cons do their events on a Thursday. Friday was, kind of typical, crowded, but, tolerable. Saturday, on the other hand, was where it kind of wasn't that great because they kind of made a big mistake that they did with last year's MegaCon where it looked like they oversold tickets just because it was insanely crowded. Like, I'll show some footage right now to give you an idea how crowded it was. But the footage I show you right now doesn't do it justice. Unfortunately, because of how crowded it was, it made it pretty tedious and frustrating to try to walk around the con. It made it pretty difficult to ask for photos because people were just getting in the way and whatnot. I'll show some photos right now so you can see some of the photos I got of other cosplayers I took photos with. Just getting photos on Saturday in particular was pretty daunting because how crowded it was. But, that was a huge complaint. I did that with Saturday of the con. And even Sunday was a bit crowded. Not as crowded, but it was pretty crowded as well, which, okay, cons can get pretty crowded. I understand that part. But, like I said, it looks like they just oversold tickets, and it kind of seemed like they sold too many tickets that the capacity for the building was exceeded, because I know a lot of people I've spoken to about their experience at MegaCon did express concern about how the overcrowdedness, I guess you can say, of the con did cause a can cause potential safety hazards, actually. And so, I think that was a huge mistake they made with MegaCon. And then some other issues I had with MegaCon was also having to do with parking and more specifically how they handled dropping off. So last year they had a dedicated lane just for rideshare or dropping off. So if you're getting dropped off by a friend or a family member, or if you're getting an Uber or Lyft to take you to this con, and for the most part it was pretty clear where to go. But with this year, they didn't really do a good job with that. Maybe there was a spot and I just didn't realize it, but when I had my Uber drop me off on Sunday of the con, she ran into some confusion. She was like, I don't know where to go. So she kind of drove around for a bit, and then a staff member was just like, what's going on? And she was explaining like, I'm just trying to drop off my passenger here, but I can't find a spot. And the staff member was kind of being, I'm not gonna lie, a little rude about it. I understand that, managing a con can be stressful, but it's just like that could have been handled a little bit better. So I guess one last thing I kind of want to address that didn't really hinder my experience too much, but it was just kind of like, what was that all about? Was on Friday I was cosplaying Joel from The Last of Us, and one of my props was the shotgun. So this is the shotgun that I brought with me as one of the props. As you can see, it's made of plastic. It's got this orange tip letting you know that it is a fake gun. Oops, my bad. There we go. So I was walking around the con. It was in this one little area I'll show right now. I was walking around the con, with the gun. I wasn't anything weird about it. I was just kind of going like this, just minding my business and whatnot. And then I had a security guard straight up telling me, like, put that away, please. I just cooperated for the sake of not causing trouble, but, there was that to consider. Those were just some of the complaints I had with Megacon. So what did I actually like about the con? So for me personally, I don't know how you guys feel, but I definitely like cosplaying at conventions because I think it kind of makes it more fun. Aside from, the stress and like how tedious it can be to carry your props, to be in a particular suit, because depending on what you're wearing as your cosplay, it can be uncomfortable, it can get tiresome pretty quickly. But it's always kind of fun to hear other people's reactions of your cosplay, getting to talk to other people about that franchise where that cosplay is based off of and whatnot. So that was a fun experience and whatnot. I always like those kind of interactions at conventions. And the panels were pretty fun. Getting to see all the cool merch, which admittedly I didn't buy any merch really. One of the main things I was happy I got to do at Megacon was my photo op with Sam Raimi actually. As I mentioned, Sam Raimi is one of the guests for Megacon. Some other big guests included Hayden Christensen, Rosario Dawson, Zachary Levi was there, Steve Burns was there. Some of the cast of Scream, including Nev Campbell and Matthew Lillard, were there as well. So they had a pretty good line of guests, so that was pretty cool. But the only one I prioritized the most though was Sam Raimi because he's one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. I'll show my photo again so you can see right here. But yeah, I got to meet I guess kind of meet Sam Raimi. I say kind of just because with photo ops, because how many people are in line and they want to get it done quickly, you're only allowed like a good couple seconds to interact with that guest, and then you gotta get your photo and whatnot. So it was still a good experience nonetheless. And, I was happy to get that photo because, like I said, Sam Raimi was one of my favorite filmmakers. So when I heard he was going to this con, I was pretty excited. So that was fun. And then the last thing I kind of want to talk about with my experience with Megacon was the after parties. Last year I did one of the after parties, and this year I decided to do one again. I kind of forgot the name of the theme. It was kind of like classic monster-based theme. It was on a Saturday of the weekend itself. And I'll show some footage of what the after party was like. And so I'm usually not much of a party guy, if I'm being perfectly honest. And with this party, it was fun for a little bit, but then I got tired pretty quickly just because it was going on until 2 a.m. But after midnight, I was like, I think I'm good. I'm just gonna leave it right here. So overall, I say my experience at Megacon was mostly positive, aside from the complaints I had with how crowded it was, the interaction I had with the security guard with my props and whatnot. Do I see myself going again next year? I'd say definitely yes. So I'll end the video with this. Some things I hope Megacon improves for next year, because I really do think they have an opportunity to improve. It's just a matter of whether or not they actually go with it. So for starters, limit the capacity, limit how many tickets you're selling, because trust me, you could have the most exciting guests ever, but if you're overselling tickets and you're making it hard for people to go through the con itself comfortably, people are not going to want to go. And that includes someone like me who loves going to cons. So I hope they improve that, improve their parking and rideshare situation. I know a lot of people did express concern that with how crowded it was, it did cause or it did raise a safety concern. And so hopefully, like I said, they improve that, they improve the parking, they improve rideshare. Just kind of make sure that, they're providing good morale for the staff there, because like I said, I had 2 slightly unpleasant interactions with some of the staff there, including a security guard. So hopefully that gets improved. Another concern I do have with next year's Megacon is the fact that it's in February. And for a con like Megacon, as big as it is, I think February is a little too early into the year to do that, because I feel like with cons like Megacon, I feel like it's more typical for it to start around May, because in 2022 it was in May, and this year it was in late March, early April. And the fact that it's in February kind of makes me think, like, I wonder how they're going to do this. But, they could prove me wrong. They could, make it a great con and whatnot. But it's just a matter of, will they improve? Like I said, I really hope they do. But I'll believe when I see it, that kind of thing. So that's going to be it for this video right here. If you like what you saw, please rate, comment, subscribe. And if you did go to Megacon, let me know your experience of it. What did you do? What were some things you didn't like? Some things you liked? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear you guys' experience with it. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you later.